You're tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz. This is the Patient Partner Show. We're also podcast on Spreaker and distributed on a lot of its platforms. Jeannie Roller is my co-host today. Jeannie, we're going to tag along on an article that you brought to me that was originally in ProPublica, and it has to do with a Dr. Monk, who is a professor at San Diego State University in California, and he works with and specializes in dealing with the aftermath of patient harm for both patients and providers. It's quite an extensive article. I was impressed with a lot of the stuff that it said in there, because he did interview many, sadly, patients that have been harmed in the medical arena, and also medical personnel themselves that see this happening and feel their hands are tied, or whatever the reason is, that they simply cannot get better medical care for their jobs, as their jobs, and also for their patients. So you wanted to bring up a couple of more topics about this, and I agree. This is 10 years ago, this article. It's from March 21st of 2013. And it is written by Olga Pierce, and, credit across the board for all of this, for doing good work, and for ProPublica actually addressing this, because we ran into so many avenues that wouldn't even listen, that don't even listen to us. And for whatever reasons those are, why the media won't talk with us, because people are just looking to be validated that this stuff actually happens, which it does happen, sadly. So go ahead, Jeannie.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is that we are taught from the time we're born that we are to trust the doctors, the nurses, the medical community. And so when they betray that trust, it is a deep, deep betrayal. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times patients will blame themselves because they don't know, how to deal with it. I should have done this. I should have done that. I think both of my husband and you have been through that, and I have too, as the wife of. What should I have done? I should have known that they were doing something. It's the incredible guilt. Mm-hmm. I just think that people really don't know how much this affects your everyday life, because everyone at some point in time will have medical treatment. And so, somewhere down the line, you'll have medical treatment, and you always wonder, will this happen again? Why was it me? I know that others have had medical care, have had this very same medical treatment, and they haven't been harmed. So what about me? Why did I get harmed? What about me made them harm me or do this? So there's always that nagging in the back of your mind, will this happen again? The other thing is, and you brought it up in the last show, is that if you try to talk to a medical person about this, a lot of times you'll be met with a wall of silence. And one thing is, they're afraid of lawsuits. Mm-hmm. Doctors and nurses tend to think that they're perfect. They're trained to be perfectionists. They don't want to appear that they don't know the answer or that they made a mistake. While, yes, some will apologize. And the doctor who medically assaulted my husband said, well, if we did anything wrong, I apologize. What do you mean, if? You did it without consent. So there you go. So that apology just made it worse, because really didn't take responsibility for what you did. So it is that there is a wall of silence, and there are many different reasons. Sometimes a medical person really didn't mean to harm you or to have someone die under their care, and their guilt is great because there really is sometimes no place for them to go and talk to it about. They feel safe. I think that is part of the issue too. The thing that I have seen are the second victims of this. If I know of a young lady who was harmed physically, she is no longer able to do her job. She was trained as a trainer, a physical trainer, and she is no longer able to do that job. And her injury follows her every day because she can't walk, she can't run, she can't go and chase her young child around on the playground because of her injury. But, she does talk about it a lot, and her family and a lot of her friends, they don't want to hear about it anymore. So she feels shut off because no one wants to listen to her, but she still has to live with that injury and the mental harm it's done to her every single day. And a lot of people, they don't recognize that not only is there emotional harm, but there is a lot of times the physical harm that you can't get away from either. You can go and have mental health treatment, but for her, it's never going to change because physically she cannot ever get better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always there. And then if you try to pursue this through the legal system, there's other harm that comes. There's the emotional distress that comes. There's the financial distress that comes. You may lose friends because if you've talked to anyone, they'll most likely want to know who, and they'll try to bring them into the process to see if they could get any evidence against you from your friend. It is just a vicious cycle that never ever seems to go away. I know that for us, we avoid medical harm by not going to seek treatment. That's our way of avoiding future medical harm, is just to avoid the medical community as a whole as much as we can. We don't talk about this to family or to friends because you can see it in their eyes that they really don't want to deal with this, because a lot of times it makes them uncomfortable because they too want to believe that they won't be harmed. And when you make them face it, right face forward, they become very antsy and like they don't want to hear about what could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So you do feel like you're a survivor on an island all by yourself. It does do a lot of different things, a lot of physical things, a lot of mental things to people. And this article brought all this into clear focus. This other lady, well, I quoted her earlier in the other show, "I have no family now due to what was done to me. This has proven to be too traumatic for my family to endure, so I find myself with no family and no support. It is as if I'm dead." That is so sad, Cindy. I cannot tell you how sad that makes me feel,
Mm-hmm.
because no one should have to feel like that. But medical harm does kind of make you that person on an island all by yourself.
Right. You're like ostracized. So, I mean, I can hear people saying, well, when are you ever going to get over it? You need to get over it. And so that's just kind of a contrite statement. It's very tough. And anyone that experiences PTSD, and yes, that's a valid side effect of what this stuff, of what this has happened to people that have been medically harmed, because it's the trust that's obliterated. And it's also that you're not being validated. I mean, Dr. Monk, the article is called "When Harm in the Hospital Follows You Home." And again, it was on the ProPublica website, and it was done in March 21st of 2013, so 10 plus years ago. And we're still talking about this, still trying to get some answers. Really, Jeannie, in my case, that's all I was looking for. I wasn't looking for anybody to pat me on the head. I was looking for somebody to say, yep, let's look into this. This did happen. In my case, they did seemingly look into just ancillary, and then it wound up being, well, the doctor brought in too many patients, too much business, if you will, that he had to have been doing everything right. So we're not even going to look at this. Really, that's what happened to mine. And most of the other people that I talk with, except for the nurses that had seen it happen in this particular hospital, that were themselves trying to get something done, I was the bad guy. You're not happy, you want control, and this and that. And I'm like, even if you read the records, you can see some of the stuff that was really, really, really wrong. But you're right, Jeannie, and you do have to move on. I mean, you do have to move on. You have your life to live. You don't want to waste your whole life just thinking about this, but it's really, really tough to do. And I applaud people. We got like a couple of seconds left. Applaud people that do come forward and do talk about it. On that note, stay listening to Evergreen Media Network.